evening. This is CTV News for Tuesday, June 26th. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Malone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, topping our news tonight, it's primary day in 5 states, including Maryland. The polls opened bright and early as voters lined up to make their voices heard. Byron Scott has our story.
For the candidates, it was months of a lot of hard work and long hours, crisscrossing the state and the county, and it all comes down to today, primary day in Maryland. There was excitement in the air this morning at Largo High School, where the polls opened at 7 a.m.
I'm so much excited because I need a change right now.
Voters hoping to beat the long lines were greeted by a sea of signs and people hoping to sway the unsure.
I do my research. I read a little bit, so I know the ins and outs a little bit.
There is much at stake in this midterm season. In Maryland, Democrats are looking to unseat Republican Governor Larry Hogan.
We knew that there were problems facing the state.
County Executive Rashawn Baker is polling close to Ben Jealous.
I'm a fifth-generation member of the NAACP.
Jealous at one point was ahead of Baker in the polls. The race took a turn when candidate Kevin Kamenetz died suddenly in May. His running mate Valerie Irvin declared her candidacy, but later withdrew when she could not get her name on the ballot. She eventually threw her support behind Baker.
This is a ticket that will beat Larry Hogan in November.
What are the voters looking for? What are the issues as you see them?
Everything is upside down. Everything is upside down. We need people that have knowledge, know what they are doing, to be in the politics. People that are there now, they don't know what he's doing, they just follow the bulldozer that is in the White House.
In the county executive race, State Attorney Angela Alsobrooks and former Congresswoman Donna Edwards are facing a host of others, including State Senator Anthony Muse.
I did call for the resignation of Dr. Maxwell.
Voters have options this year.
With me as county executive, the buck stops with me.
And also believe in, with a background in law enforcement, I also believe that we need to do things to make our communities a little bit safer.
What led me to run for this office, it was nobody but God.
Voters are also choosing a candidate for state's attorney. Among those running are Aisha Braveboy, Michael Lyles, and Victor Ramirez.
I think it's time for a little change.
I actually think we're going to have the biggest turnout that we've had in Prince George's County in a very long time.
By the end of the day, when all of the votes are counted, the field of candidates will be significantly thinned, and then it's on to the general election in November. In Largo, Byron Scott, CTV News.
And some 80,000 voters will have to file provisional ballots today because the state's Motor Vehicle Administration failed to transmit updated information to the State Board of Elections. Some lawmakers have called for the resignation of the head of the MVA. Well, it's one of the biggest days of his political career. It's a busy day as well for Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker. He's taking his gubernatorial campaign to several voting precincts today. He began the morning at 2 polling sites in Upper Marlboro. He then paused briefly to cast his ballot. Accompanied by family, Baker voted at Gladys Noon Spellman Elementary in Cheverly.
What have you done to make your case for governor?
Well, I think one thing is, you got to show up and tell people why it's you and not the other, 6 individuals who are good people that should be elected. And what I've said to folks is, this really is not about, progressive versus establishment. This really is about rhetoric versus record. If you look at the record of my administration talking about those issues that we care about, improving public education, increasing funding for public education. We've done it. We raised teacher salary. Minimum wage. The difference between myself and the other candidates, I've actually raised the highest minimum wage in the state.
And Baker is also making campaign stops in Montgomery County and Baltimore City. He wraps up his day back in Prince George's in Clinton and College Park.
Well, many people are watching the outcome of 2 new seats on the county council. The at-large race has a crowded field of candidates, which includes incumbent Karen Tolles and Mel Franklin. The position has been criticized because term-limited members can run for it to remain in office. We asked voters what issues they would like to see the winners of those positions address.
I hope that the impact is that it's going to do a lot for our school system. Because this is where, you can look for yourself, this is where we need to help at our school system. We also need help for our seniors and help as far as creating more jobs for our young to get them off the streets.
So I like to see something come positive where we can do some housing or some type of shelter for them in Prince George's County, because they don't have it right now. And I can tell you that from a fact, because I help too many veterans who are out there in the street and don't have no place to go. So let's hope that these at-larges can make some laws, put some laws in effect that can help our community.
All eyes are also on the school board races. This after a number of controversies over the last few years, including the pay raise issue and child abuse scandal. As a result, some voters feel that new leadership is needed and are calling for change.
Because I come from an educational background where my family are teachers, and I still have family who teach in the county, who teach in Maryland, and listening to them, we do need some change.
Because the schools are being so affected now, and the people, the administration that we have in there, they say they're doing a lot of things, but they simply are not. Okay, my kids grew up in Prince George's County, and back in the day, they were good, but now I think the kids are suffering tremendously. I really do, so I definitely think it needs to be changed.
The polls close tonight at 8. You are watching CTV News. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk with Hamil. Here's a big political question for you. Can the hometown candidate win the Democratic primary and take on Governor Larry Hogan in the fall?
Well, we are going to pose that question to Hamil Harris. He's our veteran reporter, and he's going to be our political analyst tonight. So,
but the key thing, you said hometown. He has to leave the hometown to go abroad to the rest of the state. People want certain things. They want change. They want quality schools. You can't just say, I want quality schools. He has to convince people. He has to close the case. We saw him today. What are you going to do to convince people that you're the person of change when you have an incumbent governor that people actually like? I mean, I posed that question on Malley, the whole team. So Baker has to, number one, reintroduce himself, produce excitement, and be convincing that he's better than Hogan. And then lastly, he has almost pointed his finger and said, Governor Hogan, you failed. You did not do a good job. I'm the better candidate. And because of Baker's DNA, nice guy, laugh, giggle all the time, he has to kind of change a lot to convince people that he is the change they're looking for.
You know, once you get past the Democratic primary, he would also, if he won, have to convince the Western Maryland population there, as well as when you go across the Eastern Shore, across the Bay Bridge, where every sign says Hogan on it.
Again, leaving home to get to a new home, he has to sit there with people at this time. Now, he is a likable guy. And so the question is, will people like him enough to make a change in their backyard? So again, he has an opportunity, but first he needs to win tonight.
And we'll all definitely be watching it. Well, you are watching CTV News. Thank you so much, Hamil, for that analysis. And I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Vallone.